So let's continue down our list, image adjustments. And one of the best ways to convert a photo to black and white is to use the adjustments black and white option instead of just going to hue and saturation and reducing the saturation. A better way to make a photo truly black and white, outside of going up here to mode and making it a grayscale, that would definitely strip away the color profile. But let's go ahead and go down to black and white. And what's great about using the black and white option is we can have control over what used to be red and change it to lighter or darker. So we can bring out what used to be kind of inner cheeks like reds and oranges, and we can make those lighter or make them more shadows. So this gives you a lot more minute control over turning a photo into black and white instead of just doing a grayscale or just doing a desaturation. So it's a little bit easier. You can kind of see the cyans, kind of see the highlights in her sweater coming out when I increase that, and when I reduce it, kind of goes to black. So you can have a lot more control here. So that's if you want to make it black and white. So I just wanted to definitely review that one. Photo filter is kind of neat because it adds just a little bit of warm or cool tones to it, and you can select a specific color, and they have some pre-selects here. So it just adds a warmer kind of tone or filter over the top of it. You can increase the density of it, so you can make it way dramatic. And they actually have a sepia version, so if I go down to sepia, I can make it look like an old photo very quickly, and it's just adding this kind of brown tan color, and I'm at the max density, so it's kind of giving it that sepia old photo feel very quickly. We can also do cooler colors. Let's do a deep blue, or so you could just do a little bit so it doesn't look too horrible, and you could do other types of filters as well. So let's go ahead and cancel that and continue on. So selective color, this is where I think is probably one of my favorite ones to use because we can really isolate specific colors. So let's say we want to isolate her hair. So I would say that has a lot of brown in it. So I'm going to go down to this drop down menu and go down. It's probably going to be brown. It's going to be between your reds and your neutrals. So let's go ahead and select red. It's going to take all the red pixels in the photo, and we're going to be able to add any color to reds. So we can make reds more cyan, make reds more magenta, or reduce it. So let's kind of dial this back. So see how our hair color's the way it is now. So we can decrease the yellow. So right now we can increase the yellow or decrease the yellow. So it's adding kind of those cooler tones to it. And you can go down the list and figure out what kind of combination you want more. So black. So there's a lot of black in this photo. So it's going to have a big dramatic effect when I select and isolate the blacks. So let's see what happens when I decrease the blue or increase the blue. And same thing with your neutrals. There might be some gray in here as well. So you just go down the list and kind of very small changes. It depends on the kind of filter, the kind of warm or cool tones you want to go for. So you're going to go ahead and click OK. That's a very powerful customized tool to be able to isolate color and change it based on specific colors. So let's go to shadow and highlights. So this is another one where you get to customize a little bit further. So with shadows, we're going to reduce the amount. So it's going to isolate your shadows and your highlights. So with shadows, we can reduce shadows. We can reduce the tone of those shadows. And highlights, we can bring out certain highlights, and this can easily be overdone, so you have to be very, very careful using the shadows and highlights tool. So we can go and click on OK, and let's say we want to go back in time a step. We can go into our history and toggle back and forth the differences between the two. So it looks like with this one, with the shadows and highlights, I added a little more highlights, and it looks like it brought out more of the details in her face. So we're going to keep it. So desaturate is kind of just a quick way to make something black and white. But as I've mentioned before, I kind of enjoy doing the black and white option a little better because you get all those minute controls over how it turns to black and white. And that just does a quick black and white desaturate. So another really interesting one is adjustments, and go down to replace color. And you're going to be able to select a specific part or specific pixels of a photo. So let's say I really want to select the hair, and I'm going to reduce the fuzziness a little bit so it's more, has a little bit more control over the selection. I really want to isolate the hair, and you can do it based on image or selection. So the white parts is going to be what it's going to be selecting and affecting. And you could take the eyedropper tool and kind of sample a specific part of the hair and then change the fuzziness to try to isolate the hair a little bit. So I'm trying to isolate the brown hair. Let's see if we can go down and kind of adjust our hue. You can kind of notice how we can change. This is not going to be perfect. There's going to be other ways to change hair color, but this is just one method you can do. So we're kind of just tweaking her hair. And notice how it's not changing her face as much because we have the hair selected. Add a little saturation, kind of make it purple. So let's go ahead and click on OK. So we kind of have a little purple glow to her hair now, which is kind of cool, but it didn't affect her face too much. It's not perfect. It's not a perfect tool, but it's definitely one you can use to do something really quickly and replace color on a specific object that you select. So I'm selecting her face this time. That's kind of the color of the pixels it's going to be changing. And you can increase the fuzziness to expand out what it selects to make it broad or not so broad. So let's see if we can adjust the hue here. Just adding kind of a little bit of that glow there. Just reducing the hue here or changing the hue color. And we can always go back in history and toggle, say if we like it or don't like it. I'm actually going to go back to what we had before. So those are your very basic photo editing tools. They all live right up here in that adjustment panel. That's where you're going to really be able to find most of these. There's some auto tone, auto contrast, auto color. This will automatically change the tone. There's the tone, contrast, and color. I find these to kind of be random, and I like to be able to do it myself and control it via the adjustments panel. So sometimes I tend to sometimes try it out to see if it works, but a lot of times I end up living in the adjustment panel as I get more and more comfortable using this tool. So let's do some very last editing to this photo so we can kind of make it unique and make it our own. Let's go ahead and crop our photo. We're going to get the crop tool right here, and I'm just going to crop the tool, and then I'm just going to click on the move tool. It's going to crop or press enter and go ahead and zoom in down here, and I'm going to zoom in to 100% and just kind of see if I like it. I can always sharpen the photo if I want to kind of really bring out the sharpness here, and I'm going to go ahead and go to my layers. She's already selected. Go ahead and double click to unlock that layer. I have her selected. I'm going to go up. Filters, a couple other ways you can edit photos is in the filter section. We're just going to sharpen this photo a little bit. So we're going down to sharpen. We're just going to do one. We're just going to do the sharpen. This adds a sharper kind of point to it. And there's some tools over here in your toolbar, which we'll review later, where you can kind of sharpen using kind of more of a brush tool. And we'll get to that and more advanced photo editing. So this is all pretty basic stuff. There's still the dodge and burn tools. There's still highlights and shadows that you would brush on manually. There's non-destructive editing, which we're going to go over all of that in this course. But this is very, very basic photo editing. You can see the before, and it's still a great photo. It's still a well-edited photo, but you can see afterwards we added a little personality to it. Might work really good for a more modern social media post, for example. Just adding that little bit of purple and kind of sharpening the image. And there's still a lot we can do, but for basic editing skills, that's not so bad. So let's go ahead and move on to our next project.